So let me start off by telling you guys something that you already know, and that's the fact that the world's population is going to increase from 7 to 9.5 billion by the year 2050. And according to a 2010 New York Science Journal article and my calculator, that's an increase of 2.5 billion people in the next 30 years. But did you know that the need for meat and protein will double over the next 30 years, further constraining the Earth's resources? Well, current livestock farming methods cannot keep up with these demands, and we're going to see a huge spike in any kind of farm-raised protein. So let's talk about why you should care about this. There are three main reasons why you should care about the population increase. And it's because we're going to see higher instances of all the following things: environmental impact, meat-borne diseases, and animal abuse and hormone usage. But is there anything that can even, slightly cut down on and make vast improvements on any areas of these? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's one word that I have for you, and that is science. And in even simpler terms, well, more specifically, biotechnology. And to boil that down for you, lab-grown protein, casually known as test tube meat. So in simple terms, test tube meat is the biosynthetic growth and replication of a muscle tissue stem cell of a live animal. But why is it better than current livestock agricultural measures? Let's talk numbers. So back to those three things I told you guys that you should care about. The first was environmental impact. So an article in Yale Scientific states that agricultural practices currently take up 40% of the Earth's terrestrial surface. The other 60% is made up of things like mountains and deserts and, things that are completely unsuited for any kind of additional cultivation. Additionally, current livestock populations emit 1/5 of the world's greenhouse gases. But a study published in the Environmental Sciences and Technology journal states that current lab-grown beef uses 45% less energy, produces 96% less greenhouse gas emissions, and uses 99% less land. So moving on, disease-ridden meats and meat-borne diseases. Scares like mad cow disease and swine flu could become more common with the increases in the upscale of the meat industry. Under non-ideal conditions, animals could be subject to a number of disease strains that could brew and kind of culminate in those really packed animal farms. But with cultural agriculture, we wouldn't need to worry about that anymore, because lab cultured meat and any kind of beef will be grown in a sterile environment, in laboratory environment, so any kind of extra strain or any kind of contamination is not viable in the slightest. So the third thing I told you guys you should care about is animal abuse and hormone usage. Now, we've all seen and heard of documentaries like Food Incorporated, which have really opened up the horrors of the meat industry to us over the past few years. That includes mass production of chickens by injecting them with growth hormones that could cause them to grow up to 5 times faster than they're naturally supposed to. But with cellular agriculture, that wouldn't even be a factor anymore, because the only animals needed to sustain test tube meat are just a few donor animals from which stem cells can be extracted. So meat cultures must be grown from the original animal protein, so it's still meat. It's just replicating, not inside of an animal. So a few animals here and there would be needed for these experiments, but not really requiring mass production of animals or any kind of growth hormone. So now that I've proven to you guys what test tube meat and cellular agriculture could do for the future, let's see where that technology is at right now. So excitingly enough, on August 15th, 2013, a Dr. Mark Post in the Netherlands cultivated the world's first lab-grown burger and cooked it up live on BBC television and served it to a few world-renowned food critics. And the food critics said, it was a little dry, very lean, but overall a great start. However, it was a pretty expensive start at $325,000 for that one burger patty. Luckily enough, one of the Google co-founders actually funded the entire experiment in his support for new technological advances for the future, like this one. In an interview for Future Food 2050, this man, Dr. Mark Post, exclaimed that this technology is so simple that you don't need a PhD to do it. He expects to see future families cultivating their own meat at home. But how easy is it? Well, let me tell you. So this is an infographic from newharvest.org, and you can see here that we'll start with a cow, extract the stem cells, cultivate them in a petri dish, introduce these cells, these muscle cells, stem cells, to these beads, which they'll kind of stretch and cultivate around just like they would a normal, tissue or bone or anything in our bodies. So these beads are then put into a bioreactor where the meat is extracted and then packaged up as a burger for your next barbecue. Pretty easy, right? But A recent survey for Pew showed that 80% of Americans would not eat meat that was cultivated in a lab. But that other 20% consisted of young college-educated adults like you and me and everybody else on this campus. So my opinion on that is that that 80% was not educated enough. So how can we become, educated and stay on top of this research and be fully informed of what's ahead? Honestly, like I said before, we just have to educate ourselves. There are platforms out there like Future Food 2050 and New Harvest, whose front page I have right up here, that literally state on their websites, this is public information and we're making sure this is clear and open to all the general public. There's even a book out there that was funded on Kickstarter that I have a copy of right up here that challenges us to really think of where the future of protein could go. But if there's one thing I really think you guys should be excited about, it's the fact that change is coming, and it's gonna be tasty.